Hello and welcome to another development diary where I look into some of the new features I've added to my implementation of Mongoose Traveler for Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So the recently released version was 0.13.3, in which there were a few bug fixes, notably around worlds and software. And a few more features as well, mostly around worlds. But I'll be taking a look at those new features, some upcoming stuff, and also taking a look at how we do tokens for characters. Okay, so I'm going to have a quick look at some changes I've made to some of the macros. So the macros are documented in the documentation that comes with the system. So you can come down here into chat commands and on macros, and it will talk about embedded macros. Now these aren't macros in the sense of the macros you can stick in here. They're for putting into journals. So you can embed them within a journal, which is something I've done for a lot of the upcoming content, and you can use them yourselves as well. So let's see. So one of the changes I've made is around buying items. So there's a macro you can put in where you can say, let's actually edit that, edit folder, so we can see exactly what it looks like. So all these macros start with double square bracket slash MgT2e and then the subcommand. In this case, the subcommand is buy. So if we click on that, a little dialog will pop up. Now, previously, what was happening was there was no dialog. You would click on something, it would buy it, it would add it to the currently selected character. If there was no currently selected character, it would use whatever was your default character set on the player, which worked, was nice and quick and easy. So if you've got an equipment list showing lots of things you can buy, you can just click on things and they'll add them to your character sheet. However, it wasn't always obvious which character the item would be added to. So I've now got a dialog that pops up. It will default as before. It will use the same defaults as before. In this case, it's showing me Natasha Jackson's the default. There's also Bob here. It'll tell me how much money they've got. It'll tell me the cost of the item and how much will be left after that person buys it. And we can have a look in Natasha's finances. She's got 10 grand there. She doesn't have any equipment. We click on buy, then the club will automatically appear in her equipment list. And if we look at her finances, they've been reduced by the required amount. If the characters don't have enough cash, they won't be listed on that drop down. So it's a quick and easy way of allowing characters to purchase goods. The UUID comes from the item itself. So if we actually look at our base items, so in this case it's coming from the club. If you click on there, that will copy the UUID to a clipboard and then you can just paste it into the journal. So, and it doesn't have to go into just the journals, it can go into a character's description or even into an item's description, so you can click on things and allow characters to buy them. I said the main point of that is for where you've got large equipment lists, such as in the core rules or central supply catalogue. Another change that's been made is to skill training. So There's a whole load of skill training macros. These were basically designed for use in character generation. So you could have the normal career table and have links on there, and you can just click on them, and it will give you a rating, either just train you in the skill or give you +1 or whatever, depending on what values you set to. Something that's been added now is the ability to add new skills. So if you specify the skill ID, which is the internal name. If that doesn't exist, if there's it will normally give you an error. If you specify a name, then it will actually create that skill. So we click on that. There we go. Natasha now has a warbling skill, whatever warbling does. Similarly, you can add speciality skills. So if we add in that, she now has a profession in gardening. So this is a quick and easy way of adding skills to a character. So if you want characters to learn non-standard skills, you can just set up a journal, or even stick it on a character sheet on the description or on items, wherever there's your typical text description field like that, you can stick that in there. Likewise, if you put in curly brackets after it, then that becomes slightly more readable. You can replace that with text. So let's have a look. Yeah, so rather than it displaying that, it will display some meaningful text instead. If you have a level set, it will train it up to that level, much like in character generation. If we get rid of the level, so get rid of that level, click on that, it will increment. If you click on that one, it won't, because it's only training it to level 1, and it will actually output in the chat what's being done, whether they've learned a new skill, whether it's gone up or whether it's unchanged. So I'm going to put that one back, equals 1, like that. So yeah, so that's a small change which is useful in a number of different locations within the rules. When there's a special skill that isn't standard, you can just say, here it is, click on it, learn it. What we're going to look at next are planets. So there's been a bit of work on planets. They are considered actors, so you can create them. They're actually called worlds. Create a world, and I could create a new world, and it will give me a world character sheet. It's a place for a map there. Freight and trade. I mean, I've described these before, so I won't go into too much detail on them, but the new thing that's been added is some extra features around some of the metadata and world generation. So you can click on here to generate. It will randomly generate the world for you. Now it will also generate and display facilities. So the code to generate facilities is out in 13.3. The code to display the data is still being worked on, so it's a bit ropey in terms of how it's being displayed. That could do with some improvement. So it can be edited though, if you want to change what's there. You can change the berthing cost. You can change whether there's a high port. We also generate trade codes. We'll generate bases as well. Yeah, you can't actually edit that at the moment. I don't know whether to allow trade codes to be edited because they're actually based on the UWP. So technically, they should just be auto changed if. So when these change, it will automatically change what the trade code is. Bases, though, they're purely random, so I could allow those to be added and removed as required. Now, also down here, we've got a culture. This is randomly generated. It's actually taken from the cultural differences table in the core rules. Now, this is content. This is sort of Mongoose content rather than pure rules. So I don't include this within the base system. Once the core rules are published, then it will actually automatically pick up the fact that you've got it installed and it will be able to make use of it. If you don't have it installed, it will just tell you to create your own table, and we can do that. We go to rollable tables. We've got okay, so this, okay, that was me hitting F5 rather than what I wanted. So let's, the wonders of a live demo. Right, what do I want? Compendium packs. Of course, this was in my other world where I set everything up, so this isn't very useful. Cultural differences, let's, yeah, that is, because, yep, so what do we want? Create, so let's create our own cultural differences table. We'll put 3 items in it because it's nice and quick. Learns to sing, and what else could we have? Okay, so we have a new cultural differences table. And what do we want? We want our world back. We want new world. We've got homestead, new world. That's the one. So if we click on generate, update. Nope. No, difference. That was 2. Update. Right. Okay. Generate. Right. Okay. So I thought I'd renamed that one. I hadn't. So our new one is now being picked up. So as you, yeah. So you can add. So you can create your own tables of random results, and it will, as long as it's called cultural differences, and there's only one called cultural differences, it will pick that up and make use of that. We also create factions now as well. So get rid of that. Generate factions. We generated a faction. We'll, yeah, it will generate a number of factions. We don't, if there's already factions, we won't regenerate some more. Otherwise, if you keep on hitting generate looking for an interesting world, you'll end up with a whole long list of factions. So we don't generate any if there's already some there, but you can take a look at those. You can edit them, and it will generate what the government is and what the influence of the faction is. I need to do some work on allowing these to be edited a bit more. You can't currently edit the government or size of the faction. You can edit the text and you can edit its name. So we could call that my faction. But yeah, so but they are being generated, and so this is part of the world generation rules within the Mongo score rules. We have a map as well. This had a bug in it previously, but I don't know whether we've got any interesting maps here, but you can select a world map, you can have a unique one per world, and you can have it defined like that. So yeah, this is worlds is something that's being worked on, and I'm improving that as time goes on. But yeah, so for now, we've got a bit more work done on what's displayed and what's generated, or what you can change yourself on the worlds. So what I'm going to look at next are tokens. So I don't know how many people are aware, but the system comes with a number of tokens pre-installed for vehicles and spacecraft. I mean, I'm not an artist, but I can sort of draw straight lines in Inkscape. So they're the best things in the world, but hopefully they allow you to have something you can just quickly drop onto a map before you find something a bit better. So we have the vehicles from the core rules I've sort of drawn. So if we take a look at them, so this is the actual vehicle sheet. Won't come in the basic system, but what we can do is go into here, into the appearance, and we can take a look at what's available in the system. And as I said, this is all part of the core system. It's under the images tokens, and there's a vehicles directory, and there's a number of different colors. So we can select what color we want. We could select green and update token, and we get a green cargo truck. So they're all available in a range of different colors. The actual tokens are sized to fit the character scale. So if we have a look at, let's take Natasha. So in theory, they fit the sort of 1.5 meters per square size. Originally, I did base them on the shipping tonnage size of the vehicles, but that ended up creating some huge things that probably wouldn't fit on roads. So they've been resized. So hopefully they're a bit more sensible. So they're available, they can be used, and you can just select them for your own vehicles, basically. Now, I also do similar things for spacecraft. So we have a number of spacecraft tokens available. Again, they're available in different colors. By default, within the rules, I've got the ships from the core rules available. They're all things I've drawn myself. So yeah, there's probably better things out there. All these are actually drawn to scale, as in what I have available is a far trader that's like I think about I think it's about 50 meters long. So what's that? About 30 squares. But they for use as tokens, I've scaled those down so they actually fit on the map when you're going to have space combat involved. And the scaling I've used is sort of logarithmic. So a spacecraft up to 30 tons in size will be one square in size. Ships up to under 100, so 30 tons plus, will be 2 squares in size. 100 tons plus will be 3 by 3 squares. Ones which are 300 tons or more are 4 by 4, and it gets bigger at 1,000. So at 30, 100, 300, 1,000, 3,000, 10,000, etc. It will automatically change the size. Well, it doesn't automatically change the size, but that's the scaling I use. We have so here's an example. All the spacecraft. So here's the ones in green, for example, and we've got them in different colors as well. Vehicles. We've got similarly, you've got a directory, and in each directory you've got all the vehicles in that particular color scale. Now the idea is to sort of make it a bit obvious how big ships are relative to each other. So a scout and a far trader. Okay, the scout's 100 tons in size, the far trader's 200, but they're roughly about within the same size category, so that they're the same. Close escort at 400 tons goes above the 300 ton plus category, so goes up a size category. So if you're in a far trader, or if the players are in a far trader and they see a ship which has a bigger token, the idea is, yeah, you'll be able to sort of judge that, yeah, that's a bigger ship, or that's a smaller ship. So it becomes a bit more obvious without having huge tokens on the map. Obviously, you can size them to however you want, but that's how it's actually designed to be used. Of course, hold on, and here's a so yeah, here's a table showing the actual size classes I use, ship tonnage, and pixel size, and the number of actual squares that is. So you can get quite large ships, tokens for the larger ships. But I've only got the ships in the rules, so that's everything I think is less than 1,000 tons. Now, one thing I am looking at doing is high guard. So the question is how to handle tokens for high guard, because there's an awful lot of them. So these tokens in the core rules have a reasonable amount of detail on them. For the high guard ships, what I'm planning on doing is basically keeping the detail a lot simpler. So some of these are just outlines. I might add a bit of detail to all of them, but they'll use the same scaling methodology when I come to create the tokens. And we go, so here's some I've done earlier. So what have we got? We've got a So like carrier, looks like the Plankworld Dreadnought hasn't had its image updated. That one does. So for these, Tigris, so you can see the bigger ships, they still fit on the map. I think they're still usable using this logarithmic method. It just makes it a bit obvious sort of what's bigger than what. For the High Guard ships, a thing I've done is made use of the wildcard images in Foundry. So every Tigris you drop in, it's not being very random here, right? Will come in as a random color. And if we have a look at the tokens appearance, you can see we have, instead of having directories named by color, you have directories named for the ship, and basically it will contain a variety of different colors, and it will randomly choose one when you create a new image. So I'll use that for what I'm doing in High Guard. So if you want to plonk down lots of ships of a particular type, then they'll all have a different color, which will make it a bit easier to sort of tell the difference between them. One thing I may do, have I done this yet? Small spacecraft, cargo carrier. That should be, oh yeah, that's not a capital ship. Some of them I'm not making square, because if you make them square, you end up with a lot of white space either side. So I may have a bit more fine-grained editing of the tokens to make some of them rectangular. But that's something I'm working on at the moment. So yeah, so that's what I do with the tokens for spacecraft and vehicles. For the core stuff, it's all available in the base system. You can just when you creating spacecraft or vehicles, you can just select something from what's there and use it yourself for your own vehicles. Everything else will be in the High Guard. So all the other ships will be in the High Guard book, which it's not available as standard. Hopefully that will be coming as later content. So I think that's everything for this development diary. As I said, 13.3 has just been released. I'm working on 13.4. That may go out soonish, depending on how many bugs I find. But yeah, if you've got any suggestions or comments, feel free to leave them below or add them to the GitHub repo. I have just discovered how to switch on email notifications in GitHub. So if it's taken me a while to respond to some of the issues raised, my apologies. I was expecting GitHub would just email me if someone raised an issue. They don't by default, but I've now enabled that, so I should be able to see things raised there a bit quicker now, and hopefully be able to respond a bit quicker. But that's everything for now, so thank you very much for listening, and enjoy your gaming.